All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling The Stand, that massive Stephen King epic. You guys requested a deep dive on this one, and it's a doozy. We're talking apocalypse, good versus evil, the whole shebang.
Oh yeah, it's got it all. Definitely one of King's most ambitious works.
For sure. So for anyone who hasn't cracked this one open yet, just imagine a superflu wipes out like most of humanity. It's nicknamed Captain Trips.
Catchy name for a global pandemic.
Right. But seriously chilling when you think about it. And it all starts in this government lab, right?
Yeah.
With this patient zero who escapes, and then boom, the whole thing explodes.
It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck. You see it coming, but you can't stop it. Hospitals are overwhelmed. The army can't contain it. Towns are deserted. It's bleak.
Totally. And King doesn't shy away from any of it. You really feel the weight of this societal collapse. But what's amazing is how he brings it all to life through these incredibly vivid characters.
Absolutely. Like, we're not just dealing with abstract concepts here. We're seeing the apocalypse through the eyes of everyday people.
Right. Like Stu Redman, this guy from Texas. Total everyman, suddenly thrust into this leadership role he never asked for.
And then there's Franny Goldsmith, who's pregnant when the world goes to hell. Talk about impossible choices.
Oh, man, I can't even imagine. And then you have Nick Andros, who's deaf and mute. He faces even bigger challenges as communication breaks down and the world descends into chaos.
It's like King takes these ordinary people and throws them into this extraordinary situation, forcing them to confront not just the virus, but the very nature of humanity.
Exactly. And just when you think they've hit rock bottom, he introduces this whole other layer, the supernatural.
Right. Out of the ashes of this destroyed world, people start having these incredibly vivid dreams. Some are drawn to Mother Abigail.
This 108-year-old woman.
Yeah. She's living in Boulder, Colorado, representing this kind of beacon of hope, faith, a real sense of community.
But then others are drawn to a much darker figure, Randall Flagg.
The Man in Black, the Walking Dude, he goes by a lot of names.
Yeah. And he sets up shop in Las Vegas.
Right, the ultimate symbol of excess and temptation.
It's this crazy duality, right? Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg, they represent this eternal struggle between good and evil.
And it's not just some abstract battle happening in the clouds. It's playing out in the hearts and minds of every single character. They're forced to choose a side.
And those choices, oh man, they're not easy. Take Harold Lauder, for example. At first, he seems like this harmless, even helpful guy.
Yeah, you almost feel bad for him. He's clearly struggling to fit in.
But underneath, there's this simmering rage, this jealousy, especially towards Stu and Franny.
And King lets us in on his inner turmoil through Harold's diary entries. They're these obsessive, disturbing ramblings that show just how far gone he is.
Seriously, you start to see this guy unraveling right before your eyes.
It's like a slow-motion descent into madness, and it raises this question: in a world stripped of all its rules, how many of us could resist that pull towards darkness?
Chilling thought. And it's not just Harold, right? Larry Underwood, with his history of addiction and guilt, he's drawn to Nadine Cross.
Yeah, Nadine. She seems strong, independent, but there's something off about her.
Oh yeah, you get this sense that she's not all she appears to be.
And what's interesting is how this dynamic with Larry plays into Randall Flagg's whole MO. He doesn't just offer power, he preys on people's vulnerabilities. He exploits their fears, their desires, twists them to his own ends.
So it's like this psychological thriller woven into this epic, apocalyptic showdown.
Exactly. You start questioning everyone's motives, who's truly good, who can you trust.
It's intense. But what really gets me is how King never lets you forget the human cost of it all.
Right. It's not just about this grand battle between good and evil. It's about the individual lives lost, the sacrifices made, the sheer brutality of survival.
There's this one scene that always sticks with me. Franny and her group encounter these armed men on the road. Things escalate quickly, and it ends in this shocking act of violence.
It's a reminder that even with this common enemy, humanity can still be its own worst enemy. The old rules are gone, and survival often comes at a terrible price.
So we've got this apocalyptic setting, this clash of good and evil, these complex characters battling their own inner demons. But then there's this other layer, rebuilding.
Yeah, it's not just about surviving the plague. It's about figuring out how to live in this new world, how to create some semblance of order out of the chaos.
And that's where Mother Abigail's free zone in Boulder comes in, right? It becomes this symbol of hope, a place where people can start over.
But it's not exactly a walk in the park. They need food, shelter, some kind of leadership. And all the while, Randall Flagg is looming over them building his own twisted society in Las Vegas.
So it becomes this microcosm of the challenges humanity has always faced, right? Leadership, resource allocation, individual freedom versus the needs of the community.
And it's not just about the practical stuff either. There's this big question about faith versus reason.
Oh yeah, like with Glenn Bateman, right? He's this cynical academic who, even after seeing all this crazy stuff, still clings to logic and reason.
He challenges Mother Abigail's leadership, argues for a more democratic approach to governing the free zone.
There's this great scene where he lays out his vision. Elections, a constitution. It's like he's trying to recreate the spirit of the old America in this brand new world.
But even Glenn can't deny Mother Abigail's influence. She has this way of inspiring hope, even in the most skeptical people.
But that hope takes a hit when she suddenly disappears, just vanishes, leaving behind this cryptic note.
It's a huge blow to the free zone. Their leader, their prophet, gone. And just like that, those cracks in this fragile new society start to show.
Oh yeah, the power dynamics shift, suspicions arise, and some people, like Harold Lauder, see an opportunity to exploit the chaos for their own gain.
And that's where things start to get really interesting. Picking up where we left off, Mother Abigail vanishes. In the free zone, they're reeling. Trying to rebuild a society from scratch, constantly looking over your shoulder for Randall Flagg, and then your spiritual leader just disappears. It throws them big time.
Oh yeah, it's like the whole foundation starts to crumble. You can feel the tension, the fear, and right in the middle of it all, Harold Lauder. He starts to really come undone.
Remember those diary entries? His descent into darkness? It gets worse. His jealousy towards Stu and Franny, it just consumes him. He's fixated on them. And his plans against the free zone, well, let's just say they get a whole lot darker.
It's almost like he becomes a different person. This bitterness just takes over.
Well, it makes you think, right, about the nature of evil. Is it something you're born with? Or is it circumstances that push you over the edge? Harold's a tough case.
Yeah, it's complicated. But meanwhile, the free zone's got a much bigger problem on their hands. Randall Flagg. He's out there in Vegas building his army, and they need to know what he's up to.
And that's where Nick Andros comes in. He's got this unusual idea. He wants to send Tom Cullen to Vegas as a spy.
Tom Cullen, the guy with, the one with the childlike mind.
It's risky, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a huge gamble.
Yeah.
But Nick believes Tom's innocence could actually be their biggest advantage. Flagg wouldn't see him as a threat. It's a crazy idea, but somehow it makes sense. And then, bam, things escalate big time. The trash can man, one of Flagg's most loyal followers, he sets off a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, the guy loves fire a little too much. Total god complex. And just like that, Vegas is gone.
Talk about a game changer. The stakes just went through the roof. And back in the free zone, well, they get a surprise of their own. Mother Abigail returns.
But she's not the same. She's weak and carrying some heavy knowledge. She warns them about Nadine, says she's not who she seems.
And that young boy, Joe, he's in danger.
It's a twist, for sure. Suddenly, everyone's motives are suspect. You can't even trust the people closest to you.
Exactly. It's like this paranoia seeps into everything.
But it makes sense. It's not just about fighting Flagg and his followers. It's about fighting that darkness inside everyone. And before she can explain everything, Mother Abigail, she collapses, falls into a coma.
Devastating. Just when they needed her guidance the most.
But even in her silence, she shows them the way forward. She hints at a group who must journey west to confront Flagg directly.
Talk about a suicide mission.
Oh, yeah. They're facing impossible odds. But they have to try. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance.
All right, so it all comes down to this. Mother Abigail, before slipping into that coma, she basically points to the folks who need to head west. Stu, Larry, Glenn, Ralph.
And Franny. Don't forget Franny. Very pregnant, but determined to go.
Oh, absolutely. She's a force of nature. So they're walking into the lion's den, basically. Straight into Flagg's territory.
And it's not just the external journey, right? The physical dangers. It's this internal journey they're all going through. King really digs deep into their psychology in this part of the book.
Oh, yeah. You see them stripped bare, forced to confront their fears, their doubts. Laurie's still grappling with his past, with Nadine.
And Glenn, Mr. Cynical Academic. He's forced to confront the nature of faith head-on. After everything he's seen, he's still wrestling with logic and reason.
And then you have Franny, carrying this new life in a world that's literally falling apart. Such a powerful image, right? This symbol of hope amidst all the darkness.
But it's a fragile hope. And King doesn't let us forget that. There's this constant sense of danger, of loss.
Like when Glenn is captured by Flagg's men.
Brutal scene. A real gut punch.
It reminds you that no one is safe. and it makes their mission even more desperate.
But they keep going, driven by their loyalty to Mother Abigail, by their belief that they can stop Flag, that they can make a difference.
But it takes a toll on them. This journey, it's not just about miles traveled, it's about the internal battles they're fighting.
The exhaustion, the fear, the doubt, it weighs on them.
And then, just as they're approaching Vegas, they realize it's a trap.
Flag's been expecting them. He's ready for a fight.
The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. King really paints a chilling picture of Vegas under Flag's control. It's like this twisted, dark mirror image of society.
And just when it seems like all hope is lost,
Boom. The trash can man sets off that nuke.
talk about unintended consequences.
It's chaos,
Yeah.
a total game changer. Flag's army is decimated, but it comes at a terrible cost.
Yeah, countless innocent lives lost. A sobering reminder that even in victory, there's tragedy.
But the survivors, they make it back to Boulder. Battered, but not broken. And Franny, she gives birth to a healthy baby.
It's like this little spark of hope, a symbol of new beginnings.
But even with Flag gone, things aren't easy. The world's been shattered. They're starting over, literally from scratch.
And the ending, it's not all sunshine and roses. There's this lingering sense of unease, a reminder that evil, it doesn't just disappear.
It's something we have to constantly fight against
Yeah.
in ourselves, in the world.
Exactly. And that's what makes The Stand so powerful. It's not just an apocalyptic thriller, it's a reflection of the human condition. It forces us to ask tough questions, to confront our own beliefs about good and evil, about faith and reason.
And it reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. There's always the possibility for redemption, for rebuilding.
And that's a message we can all use a little bit of these days.
Absolutely. So that wraps up our deep dive into The Stand, folks. It's a wild ride for sure. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit terrifying. Thanks for joining us on this journey.